Hey guys, Patrick here from Underground Fitness. Going to bring you through a few exercises, give you a few tips on how to improve your scapular mobility. Okay, so the scapula, very versatile little set of bones behind your body. So any exercise that utilizes your arm is basically going to be utilizing your scapula as well. So there's actually 17 muscles that tie in with the scapula, and if there's a weakness in any one of them, it's going to affect your ability to do any sort of upper body or arm related exercise. So let's get started. Okay, so apart from just sort of mobilizing the scapula, it's also very important that we strengthen it as well. Okay, so scapular retraction would be like that sort of process of pinching the shoulder blades back, and a lot of the times they're kind of overly rotated inwards. That's where a lot of problems in our shoulder kind of come from. The humerus kind of starts, this is the humerus, kind of starts to rotate in. So what it actually helps to have kind of a strong sort of internal part of your scapula, sort of in the rhomboids, just kind of sitting in between the two shoulder blades. Okay, so what we can do is, you want to start by getting a band. So whatever you're using, just make sure that you kind of start kind of with you don't want to start with slack. Okay, so I'm kind of taut there. And then what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to inhale, I'm going to exhale, and I'm basically going to pull the band evenly across the chest, retract the shoulder blades, keep at shoulder height, and then inhale as I slowly release. Exhale, drive the band out, retract the shoulder blades, inhale as I release, making sure that I don't get any slack kind of halfway. And you repeat that process for about 12 to 15 for about 3 sets. Okay, so the next one I can do a little bit more for, I suppose, the mobility aspect of it, to really help kind of combat that kind of kyphotic sort of upper body position where you're kind of rolled forward, is really just kind of doing the exact opposite. It's kind of try and open the arms back, kind of get that retraction in the scapula, open up the anterior aspect, of your shoulders and your pecs as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, you don't want to do this kind of you don't want to start off with too much resistance at the start. You can use a band, you can also use a broomstick and just kind of let your arms kind of slide up and down. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to start at the front of the hip, I'm going to inhale, then exhale, I'm just going to pass the band across, over, make contact with the glutes at the back, inhale through, exhale as you pass over the other side. Now, as your mobility gets a little bit better, you can probably kind of make your way along the inside of the band, and then you can kind of, even when you have a little bit of resistance, you have to separate the band. That puts a little bit more strain on kind of the shoulders as well. But you got to be very careful. You got to be careful here. It's a very delicate position for your shoulders to be in. So don't go at it too hard. Don't be overzealous. Don't kind of go at it like this and just be like, okay, then have to, really drive the band apart. Start off comfortably and build it up as your mobility improves. So guys, another thing we might face is an inability to get your arm kind of directly overhead, which would be kind of problematic in terms of doing a shoulder press. And that's where kind of, I suppose really scapular kind of immobility is going to be most kind of prevalent, is when you're kind of pushing something overhead. You're going to feel some clicking, you're going to be leaning back, trying to compensate to get that overhead movement by kind of extending your back. So this one, I definitely wouldn't start off by using a weighted bar, and this is actually a standard bar. This is kind of only about kind of 8 kilos. I definitely wouldn't use an Olympic bar for this one. Okay, so start off with the broom and then kind of work your way up. Whereas you can get a broom and put a little weight, kind of a little small weight disc down it to add a little bit of extra resistance. So this is a really good one to kind of open up. It's kind of like doing basically a pullover exercise, but really feeling the stretch at the bottom. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get on my bench, or whatever you have, okay, almost like being in a bench press position, but a much kind of wider grip. Now, I would say try to keep your spine neutral. This one, you don't really necessarily have to keep your core really pressed down in your lower back against the bench, but you don't want to extend too much, because that's really just not going to add any extra mobility in the scapula. That's all really going to be coming from your abdomen. Okay, so what you're going to do is, you're going to inhale, allow the bar to pass back, pinch the shoulder blades, get that stretch, exhale, and pull over. So you can see that doing this with the weight is going to be quite challenging. It is a very, I suppose, peculiar position for your shoulder to be in, so not something you want to tackle with the weighted bar straight off the bat. Okay guys, so the exercise I'm going to show you now is called a scapular push-up. So scapular push-up is really good for, working your serratus muscle, which kind of wings underneath that, like, in a very, very lean individual, you might kind of think looks like a very extended rib cage. So that muscle is really important for basically keeping your scapula in place, especially while you're doing sort of pressing movements. And it is kind of a very good remedial exercise to do, especially if you've got something like what might be called like a winged scapula, where your scapula starts to displace and almost point out like wings. Okay, so a scapular push-up. Scapular movement is basically that sort of forward kind of rotating movement of the scapula as you kind of press forward. Okay, so that sort of protraction there is what we're kind of looking for. So we're down the elbows. Okay, you want to have your shoulders just over elbows, kind of at right angles. You're holding a nice core position. You're going to inhale, retract the scapula, and then retract it down. Inhale through the nose. Exhale, driving your arms into the ground as you kind of push your whole sort of spinal column up off the floor, and you're going to feel that kind of a numb sensation just sort of like underneath the lats. It's not going to be very obvious at the start. It's just going to start getting difficult, and then you're going to kind of feel that numbness. And I recommend maybe kind of 3 sets of about the 12 to 15 mark again.